Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, a very beautiful statement. He said, وَدِدْتُ أَنَّ النَّاسِ كُلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَ هَذَا الْعِلْمِ لِأَنْ لَا يَنْصِبْ إِلَيَّ شَيْءٍ. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, I wish that everyone had the same amount of knowledge that I had, so no one would attribute anything to me. No one would say, oh, I got that from Shafi'i, I learned that from Shafi'i. They didn't want that. They didn't want that type of attention because they were doing what they were doing sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said, I wish that everybody had knowledge of the religion like I did, so no one would attribute anything to me. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that. But we do. And that's part of the problem. We want that. We want that acknowledgement, that recognition, that notoriety. I did this. I have more knowledge than everybody else. You make sure you let everybody know you learned that from me, right? In so many words. Shafi said, I wish that everybody had this knowledge, so no one would attribute anything to me. And this is one of the reasons why many of the masajid lack the spirit of cooperation, which is also a fundamental principle of our religion. The imam is a servant of the community. The imam is here to serve the community. When you sign up for a position of imam, you are signed up to be a public servant. That's what you're signing up for, which means that you have to endure some harm. That doesn't mean to become subservient, right, or less than and let people walk all over you, all right? But you know, at the same token, you are still a servant of the community. That's what you signed up for. Not only that, the masajid, the masjid that we are building, is a place that is here to service the community, not service the imam. Follow me? The masjid is not the launch pad for the imam to launch his agenda on the community. The masjid is a place where Muslims come to get service. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran very clearly, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And the masajid belong to Allah. The masajid belong to Allah. Some masajid you go into and you feel very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Because people have, co-opted the masajid for their own personal agenda. The masajid don't belong to Allah anymore. They belong to this group or that organization or this group of people. That's who the masajid belong to. We've taken ownership of a house of worship that should have been established for the people, not for the administrators of the masjid, not for the imam of the masjid. The masjid belongs to Allah. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And so do not call to anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And unfortunately, in many masajid, they're calling to other than Allah. They're calling to their masjid. Come to my masjid. Don't pray at this masjid. They're deviant. Don't pray at that masjid. They're deviant. So basically what you're saying is, pray at my masjid. So you're basically, and then you'll say, oh, this person is calling to himself. This person is calling to himself. This is reverse psychology because you are the only one calling to yourself. You understand what I'm saying? It is the ultimate role reversal, mental psychology, mental game that some of these brothers play on the community. They say, oh, he's calling to himself. Tahir is calling to himself. Shadeed Muhammad is calling to himself. He loves the kursi. He loves the chair. But then you're the one telling everybody, don't go to that masjid and pray. Don't take from him. Don't take from him. Take from me, basically. Pray at my masjid. Listen to me. You are the one calling to yourself. You are calling to your masajid, which is not necessarily there to service the people. It's there to serve the agenda of the people who run it. And, and it has interfered with the worship of many of the people. Sometimes you come to Jumu'ah and you just want to hear a good khutbah. And then the imam gets on the minbar and he starts to talk about another imam on the minbar. The masajid belong to Allah. People came here for religious services, not to hear a 45-minute rant about another imam that's right down the street that you could go and have a personal meeting with and squash out and hash out all of your, misunderstandings. Why do we have to be burdened with that? Why do I have to come with my children to the masjid and hear an entire khutbah about another imam who you have given multiple khutbahs about in the past? It's not fair. The masajid belong to Allah. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, let me just show you the ikhlas. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, ما كلمت أحدا قط إلا ولم أبالي أن يبين الله سبحانه وتعالى الحق على لساني أو على لسانه. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, I never debated with anybody. I never debated with anybody, except that it didn't matter to me if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed the truth on my tongue or his tongue. It didn't matter. Just as long as the truth of the matter came out. I don't care who brought it to the forefront. If we're debating about an issue and you conquer me in a debate by bringing the haqq, alhamdulillah. I don't care as long as the truth of the matter came out. That's all that matters to me. And that could only come from somebody who was mukhlis, for someone who was sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he warned us about times when people would become very opinionated, and that in being opinionated, we would be so at the expense of, the greater good, like our communities, like our families, like our camaraderie of the believers. Is being right more important than unifying the Muslims? I'm just asking. Is that something that Islam, condones, that one person is right or one group of people is right at the expense of destroying the whole ummah, the unity of the whole ummah, destroy, just so you can prove that you are the ones that are right? At the expense of families, at the expense of children, at the expense of building institutions that would contribute to our development. All of that has been forsaken just so one group of people can say, we're right, and everybody else is wrong. We're on the haqq, everybody else is on batil. At the expense of what? Because throughout the years, as one group of people has been professing this, what has been built? What has been built? All progress has to be put on pause until you validate the point that I'm on the haqq and you're not. Okay, I'm not on the haqq, you are. Let's keep working. Why does work have to stop? Why does building of communities have to stop? Because you have to go on this long campaign, this 20-year campaign that you've been on to prove to the entire Muslim community that you are the ones that are on the haqq. Okay, we got that 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we got it. You're on the haqq. And everybody else on batil. We got it. But everything stops just so you can prove that? Subhanallah. The Prophet ﷺ has said, "I'tamiru bil ma'ruf wa tanahaw 'anil munkar hatta idha ra'ayta shuhhan muta'an wa hawan muttaba'an wa dunya mu'thara wa i'jab kulli dhi ra'yin bi ra'yihi." In the Jami of Tirmidhi, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, continue to enjoy what is good and forbid what is evil until you start to see shuhhan muta', people obeying their stinginess. Their stinginess becomes the guide. وَهَوًا مُتَّبًا, and people following their desires. وَالدُّنْيَا مُؤْثَرًا, and people giving precedence to the dunya over deen. وَإِعْجَابْ كُلِّ ذِي رَأْيٍ بِرَأْيِهِ, and a person becoming, amazed with his own opinions. Overly opinionated. Here we are today. My opinion has to be at the forefront. I have to prove that my opinion is right, even if it means I destroy families, I destroy communities, I destroy everything, just to prove that my opinion is right. And to be honest with you, that's all it is opinions. If you say that I'm astray, and I say that I'm not astray, that's your opinion and my opinion. But the general body of the Muslims take that as their reality. That's simply two people having a disagreement. No revelation came down to prove that you're right or to prove that I'm right. And it's left for the general body of the Muslims to look at what was produced in terms of evidence and then make their decision. But if a person says, and even if it's a scholar that says, you're on the ladder, you're astray, or you're not upon the truth, and I say, no, I am, it's two opinions. At the end of the day, it's two opinions. There's no revelation that came down that says that this person's opinion is right and this person's opinion is wrong. All you're left to do is to look at the evidence that has been presented on both sides and then make your decision.